Hello, everyone. This is Renee Ratmeister. I'm the creator and executive producer of the Cooking Without Looking TV show and podcast. And today we are honored by having someone, not just someone, but the executive director of the American Council of the Blind, Scott Thornhill. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you so much, Renee. I appreciate being here.
No problem. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you were on our Cooking Without Looking holiday edition, and you made some delicious cornbread, fancy cornbread. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. And that was fun. I had a good time doing that show
Oh,
with all of you. So as you said, the executive director of the American Council of the Blind, which is a true honor. We're a membership organization with over 8,000 members and a 63-year history of advocating on behalf of individuals who are blind or with low vision and working to improve independence and security and quality of life and equality of opportunity for all individuals in this field. So for me, just a little history, and I'll give some history on my vision situation because that's one of the things that people often want to hear about is at the age of 8, I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, RP, as many people would know it. I'm so glad they shortened it to RP because if I had to spell retinitis pigmentosa all the time, I know I'd get it wrong a lot. But so RP and so really, I have 3 brothers, so 4 boys in the family, and 3 of the 4 of us have RP. And so it certainly is, as many know, hereditary. We don't know which of our grandparents, the type that we have, would skip generation, and we don't know who it was, but that's where we are in our family. And so for me at 15, they said that I would be blind by 40. And at 15, if people can remember 15, 40 is like ancient. I mean, 40 is like, oh my gosh, that's so old. Now that I'm well past 40, right? 40 is like, man, I kind of wish I was back at that point in some ways. But but I played sports and I was real involved in school and student council and all of that. I played football, I wrestled, I did track. Now I did more field than track. I didn't running was not my thing. I'm a pretty good sized guy, so I threw shot put and discus, Renee. I did not. I ran as little as possible,
You
right?
went tearing down the track.
Yeah. I ran as little as possible, and I like to throw things. Throwing shot put and discus was fine, but running was anyway. But and then I ended up playing football in college, and I was losing my vision during that entire time. So I had night blindness. I've never driven legally. I always point that out because the statute of limitations has expired on
Correct.
my illegal driving activity. But and thankfully, no one was hurt in any of my driving excursions. Um, but I went through a time, Renee. It was tough. I didn't handle it very well in hindsight, right? That I could have done things a lot differently. I could have gotten rehabilitation blindness skills sooner and probably helped myself a lot more. But pride and just embarrassment. I shouldn't have had to worry about being ashamed and all of that, but I was, and I think part of that is how society views, unfortunately, people with disabilities. And my wife Jane, we just this past December we hit 30 years married, so that's
Congratulations.
yeah, a big point for us. We have a 22-year-old son, Will, our only child, but she and I had not been married terribly long when my vision started to deteriorate a lot more, and she really wanted me to get a cane, and I finally reluctantly moved in that direction. And actually, what happened was I was getting ready to go on a trip to Utah to visit my good friend Mike and to go to the University of Utah about a trial they were doing on RP and on the vision loss situation. And she had been asking me repeatedly about my cane, and I didn't want one. It was like the scarlet letter to me to have a cane. And
Wow.
so she said, "Look, if you don't care about yourself, care about the other people around you who don't know you can't see them." And being a big guy, I took down a few folks, accidentally,
My
but
God.
there were a few people that got in my way, and
What do
I
you
let's
say
just
when you
say,
take someone down?
what do I say?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sorry. Can I help you up, or you just walk away really quickly. One of the two. It depends on the situation. But we were on the way to Raleigh. She was taking me from Greensboro, North Carolina, to Raleigh to the airport instead of flying out of Greensboro. But I could tell she wasn't happy with me, Renee, and she said, "You never called about that cane, did you?" And she was worried. I was getting on a flight and traveling, by myself, and she knew I was going to have trouble. And I said, "Honey, I know how important this is to you. So of course I called about the cane." And she said, "Well, when did you call?" I said, "About half an hour ago." And we were on the road at the time, so I'd called like just before we left the house. So I thought that would, appease her. It did not. She was still not thrilled with my decision making. But I finally got the cane. I got out of what I would say was a just a really challenging time for me. We ran a business out of our home, so it was easy for me to stay home at that point because we were running a business that we had started, and thankfully we had started it because my prior job, they changed their computer systems to a Windows-based system, and it was had sort of these pastel colors, and I couldn't read what was on the screen anymore.
Oh,
And their
wow.
IT department said there was nothing they could do to help me, and so I had to leave that job. But we had started our own business, and I was so thankful for that. We ended up selling that business, starting a real estate brokerage, which we've had now for over 20 years. I still have my brokerage license, but not active. Jane is still active in real estate, but I'm proud to say I'm one of the few blind real estate brokers most people will ever meet.
Well,
But
that's tremendous.
Oh, that's a whole nother story we can talk about another time. But that was an incredible process to be able to go through the course and do the testing and all of that. But as I say, I love to negotiate, but don't ask me about paint colors. Okay,
Yeah.
that's my line there. But I would memorize all of the real estate contracts. I would really, memorize all the things I needed to know. So when we sat down with potential clients or with actual clients, right, I already knew everything that was in the paperwork, so I didn't have to read it, and I could just go over it with them and talk about the terms and do things. And I was still pretending, right, that I didn't have
Yeah.
any issue. And even with the cane, I would fold it up and put it on the floor beside me. So hopefully they didn't see it. I'd stand up and put my hand out first, and that way I didn't miss a handshake, right? If you put your hand out first, but
Right.
still made for some awkward moments. And but I tell you, once I had to do almost a 180-degree turn in terms of my viewing of what it was like to be blind, and I didn't want to live that way because I had always thought of blind individuals as not being capable of doing things because that was frankly what society had shown me. The one thing that blind people could do was sing. Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, Ronnie Millsap, right? And even later on, as I found out, like um, uh, the Feliz Navidad, Iglesias, what is it? I can't remember
Yeah, yeah,
his
I
name.
know what you mean.
Jose Feliciano. Sorry, Jose Feliciano. And then just some of the others, Andrea Bocelli, who I didn't know of at the time, but they're all singers, and I don't sing very well, Renee. So I just didn't see blind people in things that I thought I could be that. And so I thought basically a part of me was dying, and I was mourning the fact that a part of me was dying. And I frankly thought becoming blind was a death sentence. Like this was just my life was over. Um, and I really had to have a shift. I had one night in my home, in our home office, and our 5-year-old son, Will was 5 at the time, and my left eye had gone almost overnight in 2007. I woke up one morning in March, and I had been to the eye doctor in February and had some numbers that qualified me for that trial in Utah. But in March, I woke up and my left eye felt like I had peanut butter or something smeared over it, and I just couldn't see. And I thought maybe I had like conjunctivitis or something, or some sort of an infection. But went to the doctor, and nope, just the progression of the disease. But I was in our home office with our 5-year-old, and I had a real estate contract that I couldn't read. And I usually could do it on high contrast or something, or magnification. And I said, Will, I need you to read this. So I had our 5-year-old reading real estate contracts, Renee. Not a great plan, not a great plan, but he did a really good job. And to this day, I will tell people I take credit for his expanded vocabulary.
I can
Being able
believe
to say,
it.
yeah, heretofore, whereupon, things like that. Most 5-year-olds are not familiar with those words, but he would say, "Daddy, can I go now? I want to play. Daddy, can I go?" I was like, "No, got 2 more pages. Keep reading."
Oh
But
no.
no, I knew it wasn't a good plan, and I had to really make some changes. So I got orientation and mobility training, and I got JAWS so I could have assistive technology, and just had to learn and go out with that cane and be proud. And as people ask questions or I had to explain things, it became easier and easier to do it.
You know, one thing that somebody said to me once was she had a hard time with, I guess everyone would have a hard time, getting used to being blind. And she said, well, once I learned how to be blind, it
Yeah.
really wasn't that bad. And it's like anything, right? It's like once you learn the skills.
Yeah. It's true. It is true. Once you learn how to do it. Now and I thought about that recently. I've had people ask me, well, what if there was a surgery? What if there was
Mhm.
this thing you could do and then you could get your sight back, or there's the potential you could get your sight back. I was like, the potential. Okay, well, what I'd like to know, percentages here. Is there a good chance? Is there not? Because going through a surgery and all that would be tough. But I know individuals who say no. I don't necessarily want to have sight because then I'd have to learn how to do everything all over again. Having been able to see at one point in my life and now not being able to, all I have left is light perception. Um, I certainly would, if there was a good opportunity, a good percentage, I certainly would probably take the opportunity to get my vision back because I miss things like pictures and being able to, see my wife and my son and
Right.
just things that you don't think that much about. I tell people a lot now that when I go to different conventions around the country or I go to different conferences and I want to know about the area. I want to know about the cities or the bodies of water, the lakes, the different things. It's like when I could see maps, I didn't care about reading maps. Now that I'd love to read maps, I can't see maps. So
And I
there
don't think
are
there are many maps around anymore, though. So,
it's
that's a
hard. It's
plus.
hard. I do have a wooden, United States puzzle map basically that has the states and I got a little frustrated that in the Northeast there's like 4 states they combined into one puzzle piece, right? They're so small. The states are small, so they put them all in there together. But
Well,
yeah,
also you
I'm fascinated
travel.
by it.
You
Do I?
you travel a lot. So
I have quite a bit, yeah.
how do you get around with your travel?
It's interesting. My travel is I have people occasionally say, "Boy, I wish I traveled for work like you do," and my previous job and in my current position. And I would say, "Do you really?" Because the first few months, maybe the first year of travel, it's like, "Man, this is great." And then it becomes, frankly, it's an Uber from wherever I am to an airport. It's airport, it's airplane, it's airport, it's Uber, it's a hotel or a office building. Then it's probably an Uber or walking to a restaurant for a meeting, and then it's an Uber to a hotel. It's and again, it comes back to that vision piece. And I try to make the most of it. But for example, if I'm in a new place, I want to know what's around me, right? Are there trees? Are there buildings? Are there monuments, things that I'm interested in, a big body of water? So I'm constantly asking people questions about what's around me. And that's why it's great. I've got the new Meta glasses. I've got some other tools that I
Yeah.
use, but it's still difficult to really get a feel for what an area is particularly like. But the travel itself, I have to tell you, I mean the airlines are generally pretty good. I have a lot of funny stories, I think, about flight attendants and some of the things they say to
Oh,
me.
tell us one. Tell us one.
So one of my favorites is well, there's a couple. There's one that's offensive, which
Oh,
is
go on.
you
You
do
can
you
do
have
it.
do you have an able-bodied person with you? I find that one offensive. And I've had colleagues that have been asked the same question. I actually think the flight attendants are trained with that terminology, from what I gather.
Oh my
Do you
God.
have it? And
Kidding?
so I had a flight attendant not that long ago, just a few weeks ago, say, is there an able-bodied person with you? And I said, well, as far as I know, everyone around me is able-bodied. I don't know. And they were like, well, do you have an able-bodied person traveling with you? And I said, well, not specific. They were like, well, then we will need to assign an able-bodied person to you in
Oh
case
my
of an
God.
emergency. And and I'll often say to them, I'll be fine. I'll be, I'll use my cane. I'll follow everybody else up. Well, no, it's we have to assign. And I've had it happen other times where they don't ask me first. They'll ask the person across the aisle from me very quietly so I don't hear them if they will assist me in case of an emergency. Then they'll come to me and say, Mr. Thornhill, I just wanted to let you know that I've asked the passenger across the aisle from you if they'll assist you in case of an emergency, and they've agreed. So,
Oh my
and I'm
God.
thinking, and I've said to a couple of flight attendants, I'll whisper to them, that guy could be a serial killer for all I know. So thank you very much. I'll handle it on my own. And they don't know what to say, right? They don't know how to respond to that. But I've also had them tell me the ones that aren't quite as offensive. One is, Mr. Thornhill, in case of an emergency, just stay seated and I'll come get you. Okay.
Ugh.
So I tell them every single time, I appreciate the offer. However, if there's a true emergency, you will not find me in this seat. Like I'm going, I'm out with everybody else. And the best one to me was early on. I was on an American Airlines flight. I will name the airline. I was on an American flight coming from Greensboro, North Carolina to DCA, and of course, at the timing of our recording here, the tragic accident has just occurred here
Yes.
at DCA, and I do want to make note of that and just that horrific event, and our hearts go out to everyone involved there and the families. But I was on this flight coming in to DCA, and at the time, American did not have jet bridge service at Reagan National. And so you would land, and then they would have a transport bus from the airport pick everybody up from the plane and take them to the terminal. And so the woman says to me, the flight attendant says to me, Mr. Thornhill, there's only two seats, me and the young lady in the window seat, who was going in for like a pharmaceutical, uh, I don't know, some sort of a pharmaceutical
Convention?
show, yeah, convention. She was doing the showcase booth for her company or whatever. Very young, as I could tell. Anyway, so the flight attendant says, Mr. Thornhill, in case of an emergency, please stay seated and I'll come get you.
No.
And I look at this young lady beside me, and we'd had a pleasant conversation to that point. I looked at her and I said, you know, I'm a pretty big guy. And she didn't want to say anything. She was like, uh-huh, okay, And I said, so I just want you to know that if I don't move, you're not going anywhere. And she was very quiet. I don't know what the look was like on her face, but I think she might have been a little scared. Like, this man might be serious. He might not move in case of an emergency, and I might be stuck right here in this window seat. And so they're just things like that. And then I would be told to stay on the plane at some of those flights, where they would do the bus. They would say, stay on the plane, and we have a second transport bus coming for you. And I was like, I don't need my own special transport bus. I can go with everybody else. But I would be on a big, airport transport bus with just me, an assistant from the airport, and the driver of the bus. It's like, this does not make any sense. But those are just some of the things. But most of the time, I tell you, 99.9% of the time, people want to help. A lot of times, they just don't know how, Renee. So
Sure,
for anyone
sure.
out there listening, and you don't know what to do with someone who's blind, ask them, how can I best help you? How can I best assist you?
And don't grab them.
Don't grab, don't put your hand on their back and try to push us along. That doesn't work. Don't say, here, hold my hand, because whenever I'm at an airport or anywhere and someone says, hold my hand, and I always say, no, you have to take me to dinner first. That's my canned answer every single time. But just ask how they can best assist, and people will tell you. So, yeah,
Well, tell us a little bit. Um, uh, we're cooking without looking. So,
yeah.
do you have a recipe today that you'd like to share?
Yeah, there's one, and I tell you what, I'm gonna and you can do this one anytime, Renee. It's one of my favorites, and our family uh does it around the holidays. So I'm kind of gonna continue my holiday
There you
theme
go.
recipes here, even though we're not necessarily in the holidays. You can do it year round, and especially in the wintertime and these colder days. It's a great dish, in my opinion. It's a hot fruit dish. If people kind of have an idea, many different things can be done, right? cooking fruits and the different flavors and the sugars that can kind of come out of them. But it's an apple cranberry hot dish. And so you take any sort of a cooking apple, like maybe a Granny Smith or one that you like. And I like to, for those that can see, uh, I will blend a little bit of a couple of red apples that are good cooking apples with several green apples, because I'm going to use the red of the cranberry as well. And so you basically what you're going to do is either use a cooking spray, which for me I'm going to use a little butter because being raised in the South, going to grease a kind of a glass cooking dish, maybe a 9 by 13, with or a Pyrex, something along those lines, and butter it to keep things from sticking. But then you're going to put in a bag or two of cranberries, usually two bags we would do, depending on the size of the bag and the pan you're using. But a couple of bags of just either fresh cranberries are fine, or you can, if you have them frozen, that's fine. But you put those in with the cut up apple. And obviously, you want to get those apple into sort of bite-sized pieces. Maybe I just chop them. I don't really have a specific size, but you chop them, you put them in with the cranberries. And then depending on how sweet you want it, you're going to put in some brown sugar. And that's usually probably about a cup of brown sugar. And brown sugar, as most people know, it's basically sort of, as I understand it, it's basically regular sugar with molasses sort of added in there. There's also alternatives such as a Splenda or a Splenda brown sugar that we will use occasionally, which is a little less on the sugar side, but it's a artificial flavor that not everyone likes. So, but you put that in with the cranberry and the apple, because the cranberry certainly can be tart, but you don't want to oversweeten it because you still want a little of that tartness from the cranberries. And so you put that in at about 350 and in the oven, and do that for um, usually about 20 minutes or so. And then, while you're doing that on the stove, what I do is take a saucepan, a medium-sized saucepan, and I'm going to, again, that butter that I still have out from greasing the Pyrex or glass dish, going to take just a, I don't even measure it, and I hate to say that, Renee, but I don't measure it. But I'll take maybe about a third to a half of a stick of butter, put it in the saucepan, let that sort of melt. Going to put in a little bit of regular sugar into that, not much. And then going to add some either walnuts or pecans, whatever favorite nut you have, and some quick oats. And so we add the quick oats, the nuts, and a little bit of flour, just regular flour. And so then I'm going to get that because I'm preparing a topping. And so I get that to the point where it's got the butter and everything is mixed, right? The sugar has dissolved, the flour is mixed in well, so you don't have any clumping and things like that. So I get that prepared, and then I bring out the dish out of the oven. Of course, you're going to use a hot pad for anyone who questions me on that one. Use the hot pad, put it down on some sort of a trivet or hot pad, and then I just take that topping and I spread it over the top of the fruits that have been cooked, put it back in the oven for about another 15 minutes or so, maybe 20 minutes, depending on sort of how much you like it. I like my topping kind of crisp. So I may turn that temperature up to a 375 or even a 400 if I'm going to be in the kitchen and paying attention. And then what happens is that fruit continues to break down, and that topping gets nice and crispy, and it adds that flavor on top. So now when you bring it out, about, like I said, 15 or 20 minutes later, you bring it out, and you've got a great dish that when you dig into it, you've got that kind of crunchy topping with the nuts, and then you've got that fruit underneath. It's a really, really nice dish that I enjoy
Oh
as a
my,
side. Yeah, a
or a
side with, you
little
can do it
whipped
with a
cream.
beef roast, or roasted chicken, or you can do it with anything. So,
And I was thinking a little bit of fresh whipped cream on it too.
oh, I mean, you can put anything you want. A little bit of, vanilla ice cream, throw that
Sure,
on
sure.
there. You can, yeah, I mean, there's so many good things you can do, but it's really just a nice dish, and it allows for some alternatives. Like I said, like if you don't want a lot of sugar, you can use, something different in there. If you don't, if gluten is an issue, there's various things you can do with the flour to kind of do some different things there as well. So, it's a good versatile dish for people that have some certain needs, and the nuts, you don't have to put the nuts in it. I just think they add, for me, they add something that I like in there for a flavor.
Oh yeah. Well, as we're coming to an end now,
Yeah.
as the executive director of the ECB, what do you tell a newly blind person when they come to your organization?
Yeah, those conversations, I frankly, in to say that I enjoy those conversations is is a double-edged sword, right? I never want for someone to be experiencing, but that's just the reality of
Right.
life. And the CDC says we're going to have even more people with vision challenges over the next 15 years or so due to diabetes and some other factors. And so I've always liked to say about the organizations that I work with that look, we accept people where they are. So at the American Council of the Blind, we don't believe there's a right way to be blind. We accept people where they are and help them get to where they want to go. And so, with our 65 affiliates around the country, there's often a place where they can fit in, right? We have a group for diabetics, we have a group for aging and vision loss for older individuals. We have, just all kinds of different affiliates that people can choose to be a part of. We have people with low vision. So if you still have a good amount of vision left, but you're concerned about the future, well, our low vision affiliate may be a good fit. But what I tell people is get your skills. Get your skills. Don't wait because you want to get your orientation and mobility with a cane or a guide dog, whatever direction you're going to go, because that's what gives you freedom, mobility. It allows you to get out and either travel for work or travel for pleasure. It allows you to go out and do entertainment like a movie theater or a museum, whatever those things may be. So get that skill, get your assistive technology so that you can be on a computer, you can do email, you may be able to continue to work depending on what kind of work you're doing. So assistive technology. Learn your phone, whether you're using an Android or an iPhone, right? What is the accessibility there? Learn those skills. And then don't spend time thinking that you're alone because you're not. There's people out there that want to help. There's a community. We have at ACB our community events platform, so I try to plug them in there because there they can meet people that are dealing with the same things they are, and really communicate and build friendships, and you don't feel alone. So I think those are the key points, right? That you can still have a very high quality of life, but you have to get the skills and you need to build relationships and be a part of a group where you can get that support because it's easy to let your mind go to places that are kind of dark, frankly, Renee, of I'm alone, I have no life anymore. I was there, like I mentioned earlier, and it's not a good place to be. And there's things at ACB that keep you from having, from going down that road. So that's what I tell people when they first start having those conversations. And then we look into details of what that person wants to do, and then we look at specific programs that might be good for them.
Well, how do people reach out to you, Scott?
People can reach out to me or to ACB in a number of ways. Of course, they can visit acb.org. It's very simple. They can also visit, we also have the audio description project, which ADP. They can visit our ADP website, which is lots of great things if they're looking for information about audio description and what movies or TV shows have audio description. For me personally, people can feel free to call the American Council of the Blind here in Alexandria. I'll just throw it out there. It's 202-467-5081. If someone would like to call, they can certainly email me, and that's through our website as well. They can feel free to do that. I'm happy to speak with folks. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than I would like to get back with everything going on, but I'm more than happy to be a resource and to help folks plug in where they want and need to be.
Well, thank you so much, Scott, for joining us on the Cooking Without Looking podcast. We've really enjoyed it. And I just want to tell everyone that if you want to reach out to us, you can subscribe to the Cooking Without Looking website. It's www.cookingwithoutlookingtv.wordpress.com. And you can also find all of our I think we're up to 150 shows, our Cooking Without Looking TV shows from all over the world on our Cooking Without Looking TV show YouTube channel. And if you would like to be on our show or a podcast, just reach out to me on our Cooking Without Looking TV show Facebook page, or any way you can find me on Messenger. And again, thank you so much, Scott, for helping us change the way we see blindness. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Renee. You too. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye bye.